Harold Miner, the rookie from Southern Cal, in. Miner will play against one of his idols. I'm not going to say that Jordan's his only idol.
Baby Jordan, because he did everything that Michael Jordan did when he was in college.
All right, let me get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak shit out of here.
Harold David Miner, born May 5th, 1971. Harold Miner was never Baby Jordan. Let's get that out the way right now. It's funny because looking back at the NBA and basketball in earlier stages, especially in the 90s, it's all too funny to me seeing what moves people got excited for, the dunks they did receiving standing ovations that are not even warm-up dunks today, or the players that year after year they deem the next Jordan or Baby Jordan or whatever. Today's feature is one that donned that title and obviously took it and tried to run with it. Thing is, he never had a shot at being anything close in any way to Michael Jordan. And that's not a dig at Harold Miner, it's just reality. Regardless, he was given the name and expected to be just that, or at least close in the league, and it never happened. His NBA career lasted just 4 seasons, with his last game fittingly against Jordan and the Bulls, where he went scoreless in 5 minutes. Here's why that happened, and why retiring the moniker Next or Baby Jordan was the best thing that could happen, especially for the player. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Ash, get him! Miner is from Inglewood, California, and was a star at the local high school. He was 6'4", 6'5", strong, could handle the rock, and super athletic, which is why at the time he fell right in line with anyone from that era being really athletic, receiving the Michael Jordan comparison. By his senior season, he averaged 28 points a game and accepted a scholarship from one of his hometown teams, USC. Stunt number 1 being compared to MJ. As mentioned earlier, the game of basketball was still finding its legs in the early 90s, so everything was an eye-opener, and things you see today were not even fathomable at the time. It seems like one of the more popular things to do in those days was compare anyone with similar size and athletically gifted to the greatest player of all time, who was in those days doing futuristic things on a nightly basis, Michael Jordan. Everyone wanted to see the next of this special one-of talent, and that's credit to the dominance of MJ throughout the entire 90s era. Today, everyone's teaming up to win, then pumping their chest hoping to get the same response, and it never fully comes. Yes, you can have 4 rings and still feel the need to demand your respect. You know why? Because there's still some out there that don't respect that style of winning. It's one thing the 90s era will always have in favor to today's game, in that the stars or superstars wanted to compete against the best, not play with them, win asterisk-worthy championships, then call themselves the GOAT. Jordan was the epitome of that, and the ones that grew up watching it saw a Harold Miner and immediately noticed he never compared and how unfair it was for him to have to wear that badge of expectation. Players are still chasing what Michael did in the 90s, so imagine being called the next or Baby Jordan in the prime of the actual Jordan's career and hype. As a freshman at USC, Miner immediately began living up to the hype, averaging 20 points a game out the gate, shooting over 40% from 3 in 34 minutes a game. As a sophomore, he upped those averages to 24 points and over 5 rebounds per, leading his team with a few other future NBA players to the NCAA tournament, where they lost in the first round. At this point, Harold had no choice but to own his Baby Jordan name, appearance, and expectation, one that would soon prove to be too much for Miner at the next level. He decided to return to school for a junior season, where he averaged an impressive 26 points a game and 7 rebounds, winning the Player of the Year award over Shaq, Christian Laettner, and Alonzo Mourning. That year's team lost on a buzzer beater that would later go down in history as one of the storied upsets in college basketball ever, and Harrell took his talents onto the NBA, where he found success and living up to the name a more difficult task. In my opinion, Harrell had no chance to be what Jordan was in those days and suffered from people expecting him to, opposed to letting him develop into the best Harrell Minor he could be. Stunt number 2, Miami Cold.
I just think that he can get his shot anytime. He can go to where he wants to go. He was all Big Ten 3 straight years and 3 years playing there. This guy is a primetime player.
Harrell, although the player of the year, slipped in the draft to the 12th overall pick in '92, taken by the Miami Heat, who already had a few future NBA All-Stars on its roster and at Minor's position. The team was stacked on the wing, and Harrell found it difficult to get playing time and compete for a starting spot as a rookie. He did happen to win the '93 Slam Dunk contest that year, which was the highlight of his career in hindsight. He averaged just 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 19 minutes a game in 73 games, a far cry from the scoring machine he was in college. With expectations on him to be the next great one, Minor felt that pressure along with limited minutes, and his production declined along with his minutes over his 3 seasons with the Heat. The team made the playoffs just once in that span, and pretty much the same hurdles every year for Minor. Lack of playing time and opportunity due to the other players in front of him that the team was loyal to. But that wasn't the only obstacle for Harrell, as he was still dealing with the baby Jordan hype and his production looking nothing close to expectations. Averaging just 7 points a game and pretty much nothing else, the Miami Heat moved on from the once explosive scoring guard and traded him to Cleveland, where he played in just 19 games, averaging 3 points in 7 minutes. The Cavaliers attempted to trade him to Toronto, but had the trade rescinded because of Toronto's Victor Alexander failing his physical. This would be Harrell's final season in the NBA, as the Cavaliers clearly wanted nothing to do with him, and Toronto also waiving him after a few exhibition games. To his credit, I never felt like the Heat was a good fit for him from the beginning, and for a guy who admittedly wasn't a natural in the spotlight to come in with so much expectations killed his confidence being on that team, playing limited minutes and not producing like many thought he would. Stunt number 3, knee injuries.
I like him because, as you talked about, this guy has a chance to be a star. And I think that when you think about NBA players, when you get a guy that can be a star, you've got a great find.
Like most athletically gifted jumpers, knee injuries are a very likely possibility, especially for a jumper like Harrell, who won his second slam dunk contest in '95. Outside of jumping though, Minor didn't really have much game and didn't bring much else outside of scoring, which can make a player like him press to make the more athletic play to the oohs and ahs of the fans, but slowly taking a toll on his body. He's not the first, nor will he be the last to have to be sidelined by nagging knee injuries, but he was most certainly the only one compared to Jordan constantly and expected to supersede the GOAT at some point. After 4 years of failing to live up to the billing and knee pain from Minor, his career was cut short without a return attempt or overseas shot. He just disappeared, fading away into a more natural lifestyle for him without cameras, big games, and expectations to be what he simply never was. The comparisons to MJ were unfair, and his knees didn't hold up over time, but even with those, it would have been difficult to shake that baby Jordan comparison and just be a kid from Inglewood that made it to the league, made over $20 million, and decided to move on. All in all, Harrell Minor did move on, but his legacy, whether he likes it or not, will always be compared to Jordan in remembrance of the career he was expected to almost certainly have. He was still a solid college player and did things that many basketball players will never do. Was he baby Jordan? No, he wasn't. Was he the best Harrell Minor he could be? Well, for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth, and I'm out.